My inspiration behind the idea, my co-writer Jim Taylor has a crazy brother named Doug Taylor. Doug Taylor doesn't work in movies, but he has nutty ideas. And many years ago, he approached Jim saying something to the effect of, you guys should make a movie about, small people. If you're only this small, you could have a big house on a big lot and just, 6 square feet. And maybe there would be some conflict between big and small. I don't know. And he and Jim kind of riffed on that for a while. But and Jim talked to me about it, but I had no idea what to do with it until years later. It was after Sideways, and yeah, I wanted to do something maybe a little bit more ambitious in terms of scope. And I remembered that idea, and I thought, well, how really would that happen? And I thought, well, probably as a solution to overpopulation and climate change. And probably Scandinavian scientists would think of it and achieve it. I mentioned it to Jim, he agreed, and we quickly saw that gave us kind of a science fiction, social satire metaphor net that we could throw around a lot of different ideas and a lot of different, let's say, elements of society. It's a good idea for a movie. It's a wacky idea. It's an absurd idea, but it's the stuff of comedy when you can take an absurd idea and treat it very earnestly. And it set off a lot of chain reaction thinking between Jim and me. Chain reaction thinking that I hope will also extend to the viewers when they see the movie, after they've seen it, whether they like the movie or not, while they're watching it. Hopefully later they'll think, that they'll kind of catch the same fever that Jim and I had. It's such a big idea that the script was hard to write. And okay, so we have this premise, we have this idea, what's a story that we can use, and who's a protagonist who can serve as a vehicle, let's say, for this idea, and who can guide us through a world in which this idea is really happening. And that's when we came upon the everyman, let's say, whom Matt Damon is playing, who guides us through this story. I needed an actor, a terrific actor, who could believably play an everyman. And I needed a movie star to help get the financing for the movie I wanted to make at the budget level I was making. And given those two needs and the age range in which I needed him to fall, like right about 40 to 45 years old, there was only Matt Damon. It's a part that James Stewart or Jack Lemmon could have played in the past. Tom Hanks could have played it 10 or 15 years ago. But currently, I really had only Matt Damon, and I had also heard only good things about working with him. Of course, I had admired him in films. Didn't know I'd met him once in passing at a party. Thought it would be fun to work with him. Other directors confirmed that it would be. So I approached him, and a week later he said yes. Part of the humor for me personally comes in treating this stupid, ridiculous, broad idea very, very earnestly. In a way, the more serious the film becomes, deep down inside me it becomes funnier because of how seriously we're taking it. But if you take just one step back from the whole damn movie, it's pretty absurd and pretty funny, I think. Yes, we need a lot of visual effects with which to make the film, but there was also a huge contribution of production design and the interplay between both. When you've got a big set, movies for even back to the silent days are a combination of what you can afford to build or show in the foreground, and then beyond a certain point, like they do in the silent days, you kind of paint a line, and it's painted behind there. They're still doing that with visual effects today. So, for example, if you've seen the movie, Matt Damon is led into let's call it an apartment building in which undocumented workers live. It's a former construction trailer that's been, say, retrofitted with huge sheets of plywood into being an apartment building. We built that, as you see it, up to level 3. That's what we could afford. Then levels 4 to 11, I think it was, is what they call digital extension. However, it doesn't mean that all of it is CG. There are people walking along those upper corridors. They're all photographed because I wanted photographic reality, what they call photoreality. I didn't as little as possible did I want this thing to look like a CG movie. So even though it's all placed in there digitally, we actually painstakingly shot extras walking and hanging laundry and those things to plug them into those upper levels. People talk about, oh, the film is, whatever they think of it in terms of the visual effects, and oh, it's so good in terms of the production design. But within the production design, we have to talk about the props. And I was blessed to have a brilliant property master, and he was one of the MVPs of the film. The spatulas, the saltines, the rows, the cart on which are pushed out all the little people at the beginning of the picture. It's a huge prop film, and they had a huge budget and did everything brilliantly, and thanks for bringing them up. The film has a kind of a high concept premise, but is neither a broad comedy nor a full-on science fiction film. It goes in its own weird Byzantine directions. And I think that's what's maybe surprising about the structure of the film. Some people really dig it, that it's got this episodic structure with some hairpin narrative turns, but that's what Jim and I thought made it kind of fun and special, was that it has one protagonist leading us through a series of episodes that are important to him as a character, and then also important to kind of the larger story we're telling.